Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another author interview here at the Cozy Book Nook. I'm here with Aryn Alyssabeth. She is the author of her debut book, The Witch Slayer Chronicles. And is this part of a series, or
yes,
is it going to be?
It will be.
It will be.
Yes, I'm currently working on book 2.
Oh, very nice.
So it's in very early stages.
Now, have you already kind of predetermined like how many books are going to be in the series, or are you just going to be kind of it may go on. I mean, some series just go on. They're good characters that go on continuously, or some are predetermined going to be like a trilogy, or maybe do a 5-book. What's the idea with this one? For now, it may change, but for now,
I think it's going to be 10.
Oh, books. Very nice, ambitious. Okay, very.
It's going to go on a while.
Yeah, so that's good. Well, that's good because some people get attached to the characters, right? And sometimes they get attached to them, then they kind of. Want to know more about them, and sometimes a trilogy is just can't, it's one good thing about trilogy, I guess, it's a complete set, right, when you can buy it. The downside is that they're kind of all almost repetitive in the sense that they have, like, the first book's usually about introducing the characters and storyline going on, the middle one's more of like a build up to book 3, and the book 3 is like the conclusion. So it's almost like you kind of know what to expect from a trilogy. But from a 10-book series, really don't know like where the highs and lows are going to be or what to expect. I think that leaves a little bit more open to some surprises. So when did this come out? Did you just release this?
Yes, this released on September 2nd. I actually am really geeky, and I published it on my main character Zane's birthday, which is September 2nd.
I love it. Be able to time it like that is impressive. I mean, we're talking one day a year, and you were able to do that? Very nice.
I planned that back, I think, in March. I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I published on his birthday? I think I'm going to do that.
Well, the hard part of this, too, is one is, you have a finished book, but when you write a book and you're about ready to publish it, you're like a kid, like on Christmas Eve, right? Mm-hmm. So to have that kind of patience to, like, wait for a date to release is difficult. Because you're so excited to see it done on the shelves, everything else. And then, of course, if you're like planning a date, but you're still working on it, now you have that pressure of finishing it. Is that where you're at? The second problem.
Because I think in March, April, I thought, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty well done. And I was editing up through basically the last couple weeks right before I needed the final version, because they needed the final version for it to release probably, I think, second week of August. So I was really sweating trying to get all that done. Mm-hmm. I did get it done, but that was hard.
Well, you gave yourself a deadline.
Yes.
One of the pros of like being an indie author is you really don't have a deadline. Like you're your own
make your own
boss, and like traditional, they may be like, well, you have this date, this date. To release it because they have seasons where they want to release certain things, but when you're indie, so to set yourself a date and give yourself that added stress, oh my God, but you did it though. That's very impressive. And so this came out just this year, just in September. Let's talk a little bit about some of the characters and what it's about. First of all, how would we start about what you just share how you want to start?
Yes. So my main character, Zane, he's right here on the cover. He is a bastard lord of the Elvish court. That has kind of followed him all his life. He's quite a rogue, so if you're into morally gray characters who do some things that are, pretty wrong. Morally ambiguous. He wants to be good, and he wants to be kind of this upstanding member of the court, but he just isn't. That is not his personality. That's not who he is. And then I have him kind of meeting Hazel, who's kind of the secondary main character. She is a water nymph. She's a healer. And she lives in this little itty-bitty town called Dest. And they meet at the Harvest Festival. And when the two of them meet, the adventure kind of takes off from there. There's also 3 other sort of main characters and several little secondary characters, but Hazel and Zane kind of make up the bulk of the story. the thing that I really liked about the book was that in my original draft, it was all just kind of taking place in the present. And you're getting the story of what's happening with Zane now. But a lot of my beta readers, they wanted to know what happened to Zane's mother, because of course I make this whole big story about how he's the bastard lord of the Elvish court. Well, how did he become that? So I started writing his mother's backstory. So now you get that story entwined with what's happening in the present. So you get Zane's past and you get his present story, and it's kind of intertwined in the chapters.
That's where it comes from, listening to the fans, like listening to your readers.
Yes.
Because you had a vision of just like want to do the here and now, but once your beta readers get a hold of, like, I'm really interested in this. I think a lot of times with series 2, that kind of works out where you have like a character that stands out, and all of a sudden it's like people are demanding, they want to know more about that character. As a writer, that's exciting too. Like you already had an idea of writing, mostly focusing on Zane, and then also it's like, you know what, that's a really interesting backstory.
Yes.
We like to know a little bit about that. So the fact that you added that in there, I think that just, listening to them, and some authors can be like very like, oh, that's my work, but when you listen to them, and like, I think that probably added a lot of value to his story and stuff. So that's very interesting too. And then the president stuff, that's when he runs into what's her name again?
Hazel.
Hazel.
Yeah.
And what's her kind of story again?
So Hazel is has been raised by her brother since she was about 8-9 years old. Her parents died of a sort of fever epidemic that took out a lot of elves and humans. So Tristan is her brother. He's kind of been raising her. And she is a healer, so she kind of takes care of the town's sick, elderly, midwifery, all kinds of stuff. And she has the power, they all have powers as well. Mm-hmm. So her power is to kind of manipulate water. So she has all kinds of fun little water powers. And when she meets Zane at the festival, there's some initial, build up to the romance. But Zane's got a lot of secrets. So when those start to come out, it's fun to see how she reacts to those secrets. But she's very clever and very smart. She's good with a sword, so there's some little sword fights, and I've got some good adventure in this book as well. So it's not just all about the romance. I think that's what I love about the fantasy romance genre, that it isn't just the romance, it's the battle scenes and fairy court intrigue and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of layers going on.
Yeah, very. And of course she's a healer, so coming across somebody who may be damaged per se, maybe somewhere she feels kind of compelled to help too. But it's always have a good, strong protagonist. And one thing, like you said about fantasy, is that you can really add the action in there, and it's believable because it's in the fantasy realm, right? So you can have these massive battles, where it just kind of builds up the characters and stuff. So very interesting. So what's your how did this come about? How did was this your first attempt at writing? Was this the first story that came to you, or how did you get into writing, and how did you kind of land on this story?
So Hazel was the one who first came to me, actually. I kind of thought up her character when I was in high school, and I would kind of play around with her in creative writing classes and kind of write scenes with her, but I never really did anything serious until I got to college, and then I started playing around with Hazel a little bit more. I started, what if I could develop like a whole story of this water nymph and what happens to her? So I did that a little bit, and I played out a couple different scenarios. I'd do, 4 or 5 chapters, and then I'd go, it's not right. And then in college, I met the gentleman who actually inspired Zane.
Okay.
And I was just so stunned because it was this guy who was basically surrounded by like 20 different people. And he looked kind of, different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I was just giggling because I was just like, why is everyone around this guy? What's so special about this guy? But he was just, and he eventually, he was very charismatic. Very different, very counterculture. But people were just drawn to him. Mm-hmm. And it was really funny to see.
I think as writers, we do a lot of people watching.
Yeah, we do.
We can't base all of our characters on ourselves, and we need that inspiration. So if you ever see someone out there just kind of taking notes, just watching, is like probably a writer who likes to, just wants to see all the different interactions out there. That's pretty interesting.
It was definitely funny, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if those two characters met? Mm-hmm. What would that be like? So I wrote the initial scene where they meet. That probably got written very early college. But then I was in college, I was in school. I got really busy in grad school. I found in undergrad I could write a lot. I got a lot of writing done. A lot of the scenes that are still in this book today got written in college. And then I went to grad school, and grad school kind of buried me. Mm-hmm. And I did not write again. I kind of put this book away, and I thought, I'm not a writer. I'm just going to, do what I came to college to do, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And then 2020 happened. I still had a job, because I was in healthcare, so, healthcare, we don't stop. But in October of 2020... I got a really bad case of pneumonia, and I know that sounds bad, but I was out for a week, and I was in my bed, and the only thing I could really do, I had nothing else to lose, so I thought, maybe I'll look at that story again, and then the minute I took a look at it, it took off. So I'm very thankful that I got that pneumonia.
Yeah. And 2020 was like a kind of a catalyst for a lot of writers to start writing their books.
It was.
It was also, for people to become the entrepreneurs. I think that was really the launch of entrepreneurism was back in 2020 when people did lose their jobs or were restricted to being at home. And then they kind of had to look inward, what do I want to do? I have all this time. What do I want to do? And some of us just watched The Tiger King. and some of us wrote books. So you chose the latter, which is very impressive.
I also watched Tiger King.
Yeah, I found that balance.
It was horrifying on mine.
I remember those days. I go back and watch sometimes on some videos on 2020. It's just a weird time, but it was people were making bread, but that's where people really started interacting with each other a lot more too.
Yeah, they did.
Because we really started to realize how lonely it was being separate from all these places you'd be able to go where you just be in a community. And so did any of that maybe affect some of the stories or any of the story that, or it just kind of gave you time to focus on the story?
It gave me time to focus on it, and I started piecing things. I just took the whole draft that I had at that time. I even hesitated to call it a draft because it was pieces. So I took all the pieces that I had for the first book, and I kind of started playing around with them, and then I had all the characters in mind that I wanted, and I thought, well, okay, how do we actually make this work? Mm-hmm. And then I signed up for just an online creative writing class. So I got through that, and I wrote the early draft through that. And then part of that class required table reads with friends and family, or just even a writer's group, just a group of people. So I took a group of very close friends, and I said, hey, look, I'm trying to write this book. It's this book I've had in mind for years. I want to do table reads. What if I assigned everybody a part to sort of play? And my aunt hosted it, and hosted all of them. There were 5 table reads, I think, for that first novel.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like so much fun.
It is so much fun. It actually is. So the whole table, we get together. We all would bring like snacks, and we'd get together usually around 5 at night, so that everybody has time to get there. Usually on a Saturday, and we just take chunks of the novel, like from start to finish, and they read it out loud, and then they would give me feedback. So that early draft that went through those table reads is not at all what it became. But we're actually getting ready to do the first round of table reads for book 2, not next Saturday, but Saturday after, so a couple weeks from now. So it's
you
kind of
can
exciting.
pretty much get the same crew together.
Same crew.
I remember once I was doing some Dungeons and Dragons at the work with a group, and I wanted to start turning our adventure into an actual story as a writer. So I started taking notes and stuff. But I quickly, I started to realize too, it's very hard to get people,
Yes.
to do that kind of thing consistently.
Yeah, it
so
is.
did you have a backup plan in case or did you already have these characters pretty much?
So what we would do is, they would have to give me time between table reads to make sure I had enough time to write the said chapters. So, like, when we meet in November, we probably won't meet again until late January, early February, because then that gives me a span of months to prepare. But that way, when we're all together, we all kind of pick a set date that, hey, that date works, and then we go from there.
That's
so
awesome.
It's nice.
That sounds like so much fun. I know everybody's out there's like, how do I get in on this? I want to be a background character. I just gonna go out there and just act it out. Because that's one thing you don't really get as like as a theater side. When you're a writer and when you're creative in your mind. And they have to live out the stories in your mind. But I think that's a fascinating way of doing it, to where you actually have people that are the take on these characters and then see them. Hear their voices, hear them talking and stuff. I think that just, wow, I might have to do that for, maybe if I ever do a story with a lot of characters, I can definitely see that being totally beneficial. But man, it might be just a fun event here at the bookstore. It's like, all right, guys, we're going to create a story, and everybody gets a part, and everybody's going to contribute, and it's my book.
Yeah, it's definitely, I will say, it's definitely kind of a strange experience at first.
That's unique. Now, I haven't come across really any other author that's done that before, and I just like, man, why not? That sounds like just a great way to get people not only involved in your book, but also just to really kind of hammer out the dialogue, the scenes, because there may be something that with people acting it out that you may not have realized you missed.
Exactly.
Maybe the dialogue doesn't sound just right when it's actually read out loud. Which as a writer, you can do that yourself, or maybe they're in a scene in a certain location, and you make a comment of them being able to see, but they're actually standing over here. It's like that. I need to write. It's like, wow, I can just see so much benefit to actually be having like out there and just having friends that want to do that is amazing too. I mean, that gets so many people involved in your success, and just coming out with these stories, and gets them caring about it. They love, they almost see themselves in the book. So many pros to that. So that's a very interesting and out of the box way of doing that. So it's pretty fascinating. Now, are these 2 characters pretty much going to be in all 10 books, or you have it where you're going to be? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so this could be a one continuous story. Now, these book kind of is going to have its own. Can people read this out of order or
no?
Oh, okay.
Definitely not.
Okay. I always like to make sure we got to get that out, because sometimes people are
exactly.
So make sure when we come out with book 2 that we have always in stock book 1, because we have run the problem as a bookseller that we didn't think about is that as we have some trilogies and different books and stuff.
You're like, you gotta have.
I gotta reach out to y'all saying, hey, we saw your book 1. I was like, can they read book 2 without book 1? So I'm like, oh yeah, they're individuals, the same characters. Or something like, no.
It's like,
they don't even know what's going on in book 2 without book 1. So that's good, because that way, people like series. They like series, and they especially like series that you almost have to read the previous book in order to do it, because if somebody goes in and tries to read another book, they don't get it. Like, oh, you have to read book 2 in order to know where that's coming from. And it just kind of builds that community of, it's like you gotta know what's happening before you get to that point.
Absolutely.
So do you already have like the whole plot for the 10 book kind of like roughly in a very high level?
Loosely.
Okay.
Very loosely.
Okay. Because are you a plotter or a pantser? Like,
I'm a mix of both.
Mix of both, yeah.
It's so.
I guess in this case you kind of have to be, at least.
You kind of, yeah. So I have a very loose document that says, okay, book 1, these are the major things that happen. Book 2, these are the major things that happen or have to happen kind of by the end of that book. So I have that. Now, of course, that might change. And typically when I sit down when I sat down to write book 2, I do have an outline for book 2 through about halfway. I kind of got to the halfway point, and I'm kind of like, not sure where to take this yet. So I'm kind of like, okay, then I'm going to write some and see if that kind of...
Yeah.
Sometimes as I'm writing, that kind of leads the direction of the story, too.
Yeah. You got to have some room for, for your own, organic growth, because when you're developing characters, you have an idea of what they're going to be like, but you kind of have to allow them to mature and grow on their own, too. Then they might throw you some curveballs that you weren't expecting.
They definitely do.
They definitely do. I love that. And you're already in the final stages, you said? You're in the...
I'm in the very beginning stages of book 2.
Oh, yeah. This came out in September, so yeah, you're just going to have to start on that. Probably exhausted a little bit from the first book. It took me 10 years to write the first one. I don't even think I have it in me to write another novel. These are not easy to do.
No, they're not. No.
Especially if it's going to be a long planned one.
Yes, they're definitely... And I think there's also this pressure almost to get the second one out really quickly. And I'm like, I love that other authors can get them out so quickly, back to back. I follow a couple of romance authors actually that... Now, of course, they do this full time now. So obviously, I have not built up my platform as big as theirs yet. But there's a couple of authors that I follow that, by golly, they've got their books coming out every, 3-4 months.
Yeah, they're able to,
And I'm over here like, how are you doing?
I don't know.
Give me your secret.
Short stories flow out of me, but one continuous story. I mean, I have a hard time. I took a couple weeks off work to focus on the bookstore and get back into writing. In particular, wrote one story. It just become so much more difficult than I even remember it being when I wrote my first novel. So yeah, it's some just and they also a lot of times have a team, they'll write their first book, they have someone to hand it off to, that can start looking to the second draft and editors and stuff like that to clean it up, so they can focus on the second book.
That is true.
But in this situation though, you're kind of have to go through it, refine it.
Well, I do have an editor. She's awesome, but...
Say that for the last steps, usually.
Kind of. Sometimes when I get stuck on a certain section...
Okay, so she actually...
I will email her and be like, hey, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. But definitely when I get the whole draft done, that will be when we really start hammering out.
Yeah, that's what you do, the line, and you go line by line, make sure it all looks good. Continuity's there and everything. And that's one thing as people want to become writers, it's hard, they need to understand, it's the amount of... It's not like you just write a story and it's complete.
And then you just publish it.
Yeah, your first draft is just trash essentially. It's just a bunch of words.
I mean, no offense.
The grammar's not there. The story may not even be make sense. Because you kind of put it out there. I think one thing I've gotten from writing short stories is that my first edits tend to be pretty good now because I practice so much. So I would recommend definitely if you're considering writing, you're struggling writing a book, start with short stories and stuff, but we're really working on refining your first edits. I remember I heard Stephen King once, in an interview and stuff. He's like, you asked him how he comes out with books so much. He's like, well, a lot of it's just because most of my first drafts are usually pretty good already. Because he's been writing forever, for decades,
for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting out, to keep that in mind that your first drafts are going to be you're just going to have to constantly go back and fix and rework and make sure they all match and everything else. So that'd be the longest. But I think especially as your characters become more refined, defined, as you go through, I think it might be a little bit easier for you to kind of get to these stories because now the characters are pretty much writing themselves. Now you're trying to keep up, at that point. I think that's kind of the goal when you have specific characters and they're going to be continuously going through the whole journey. So you're hoping that at some point they'll just take over, and then you're just there to catalog, journal what they're doing. Because it is kind of exciting when they take a life of their own, and they really become their own individuals, and then you just kind of sit there and just, my mom, like my kids, I'm just gonna watch them grow, and
they kind of are.
Watch them grow, and the hero is like, I'm gonna have to kill you though.
The funny thing is, I didn't kill anyone off.
Yet.
No.
For the whole thing.
I find, not that there's anything wrong with killing off your characters or anything, but I find you better have a really darn good reason for doing so. Because I actually originally did kill off a character. And then, again, my beta readers were like...
The backlash.
Well, not even the backlash, but they were like, but why, though?
Right, okay. Just kind of asked that question, like... Are you...
Why?
Yeah.
Does he need to die?
Yeah. Are you doing this for shock, or are we doing this for...
Yeah, and I think once they said that, I went...
Yeah.
They have a point, actually.
Because in real life, people do live until old age. It happens. Yeah, they don't have... Not everybody you get along with has died.
Exactly. And I think that was something else that I looked at. There have been books that I've read before for very famous authors. And there's nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain authors, I think, that they almost kill off people too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're kind of left like...
Yeah.
Disappointed in a way, because it's like you feel like in a way you can't really root for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the experience I wanted readers to have. I wanted people to have characters that you could root for, and that you weren't worried. Like, I wanted just enough worry where you thought, oh, maybe they won't make it out. But of course they do.
Right.
They're a band of adventurers, so.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you have to kind of, I think a lot of times they do like the initial deaths to let you know no one's safe. But then some take it to the point where so many people are dying, you just become desensitized to it. Like,
yes.
You can't get attached to anybody because they can die at any time.
They all just die. It's like, okay, well, that's just not fun.
Or you just go the Marvel route where they die and then you somehow come back.
And then they reincarnate.
Right. No one really ever dies, It's one of those things where it kind of takes away from, like, any kind of deaths, It's that point. But I think it's almost like just part of a formula. And that's like old school, traditional formula of, in order to sell books, you have to have the shock value of a tragedy somewhere in there. It's like, some stories are just good stories.
Yeah.
They can survive their battles, ends by the skin of their teeth.
Absolutely.
They can make it from point A to point B without losing. You can focus on the struggles, but it doesn't have to come with a high price every single time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is a beautiful book. You said you went through a cover artist. And then you went through an editor. So once again, you're hearing it from an author. That is very important to take those steps. If you're not in graphic design, or if you're not have like maybe a background in editing, definitely this are 2 steps to definitely take to make sure that your book is. This is a beautiful cover. I mean, just by looking at you, almost like it's the characters are alive. And I love the border that you have on here, the font that you chose. It's just an all-around beautiful, and you have hardcover here and paperback she has available, but it's just a beautiful cover, and it's a good sized book. So it's one of those books that you feel like you can definitely won't take you 3 or 4 months to read.
No, definitely not. You can probably race through it in a week.
Yeah, but and it's good to have those combinations, because I've made the mistake of just continuously buying thick books. Like, you're getting your money's worth. Like, I want to get my money's worth of this book, and then it takes like 6 months to read.
I have one
I know.
I'm reading right now.
I think that's really what makes
really
those
good,
TBRs grow, is they keep like having too many chunky ones, and there are not enough of the thinner ones that you can just enjoy.
Absolutely.
But there's absolutely a beautiful looking book. I'm looking forward to seeing the future covers and series. Are you going to try to keep the covers kind of similar or themed?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. It'll definitely be with... I've already been talking.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
I get art from her all the time.
Oh, very nice. And that's good when you have that kind of rapport, too. So, because I love just the way in here. And people really do judge books by the cover.
Yes, they do.
As an author, I learned that myself by not having a good cover with his first book. I redid it because it was so bad. I use mine as an example all the time, is like what not to do with a cover.
Hey, but you learned.
You learned, yes. You learned it. And you start, especially when you read other authors, you start seeing that the amount of work they put in their own covers. Like, you're not just competing story-wise, you're competing with visual-wise, And,
And as much as, think about it when you go to your local Barnes & Noble, what is something that you look at when you buy a book, and really the first thing you see is the cover.
Hey, lock it down to genre that you're looking for, but other than that, you still have hundreds of books to choose from. You know, but yeah, this is you've definitely taken. It shows that you've taken the time to show some, you know, put some love into this cover. It's a beautiful cover, and I'm sure the story is just going to be just as compelling. Looking forward to reading it myself. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, no problem.
And all of our links are going to be in the description below. So if you get a chance, definitely go check out our work. We'll be carrying our books here at the Cozy Book Nook on our shelf, so you can buy online and in store. And of course, you know, if you see us at one of our vendor events, I'm sure you'll see her book out there front and center somewhere. Because, like I said, the cover is beautiful. I can't stop looking at it. It's like some covers are just kind of like captivating. I just love that. I can't brag about it enough. But definitely check out our works, and you know, follow her on all social medias. You know, authors tend to be very active nowadays.
Yes.
Really trying to build their communities, get to know readers. You know, she appreciate. You know, we all appreciate feedback. So you know, definitely reach out and you know, tell her how excited you are about the next book coming out. But hopefully in 2025, keep this rhythm going. Fingers crossed. So. No more birthday deadlines unless you want to do like every September 2nd.
No.
I didn't say it, but yeah. So definitely check her out. Thank you again so much for joining us. Yeah, so we look forward to seeing you guys in the next author interview. So thank you again, Aryn, for joining us, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And we'll see you all in the next episode. You guys have a great night.
Thanks.